Hello, everybody. Hello, Bettina. How are you doing today?
Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing
Oops.
doing really good. Um,
Good. I smell baking in my
so
house,
we
and it's not me. So,
and it's not you.
no. No, my mom was making
uh,
cookies, so she borrowed my oven, and it just smells so lovely.
yeah, yeah. Especially when it's unexpected, you don't know what kind of flavors are going to hit your nose.
Exactly. So it just
Yeah.
hit me while when I sat down. So,
When it made you run back upstairs.
yeah.
we we got talking before the show started, and kind of got into discussion about parenting this week, and something that Steven sent you. And Steven says he doesn't want to have kids. Your oldest son
Yeah.
or your son.
Yeah. My only
Yeah.
son. Yeah.
And it's kind of a sentiment that's shared by a lot of people in my generation, or certainly more so perhaps than it ever has. It's
Yeah.
something I'd love to talk about on today's show. And so he sent you something kind of defending his position.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's kind of cute, but I just want to start off by saying I do not consider myself to be a perfect parent. I have made my share of mistakes. So before anybody gets, upset about anything that might be said, I'm giving my perspective. This is my disclaimer. I'm giving my
That's right.
perspective, and and in that perspective is a lot of hindsight
Yeah,
because there's
from
lots of things I see now I could have done better. And, I've gone through the whole beating myself up for it and feeling guilty about it. And I've kind of come through that. But there's no such thing as the perfect parent. But there's a lot of things that I see, and um, I just wanted to comment on them. So
well, I do
that's
want to just
coming
jump in
from
before you.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I just wanted to jump in and say that and I think when you say hindsight, I think that's important because I can certainly look at myself at 22 and see myself now at 36, and I think when I'm 54, if that's when you have a baby, you'd be even more ready to do that. I mean, when you're in your 20s and you're just starting your career or figuring things out, and even you're kind of in one of your first relationships as well, what you're trying to juggle while you parent. It's a lot in the air without a lot of life experience. Without, when people have kids at 23, and it's fine if they do, but how long have you really been an autonomous adult for?
Yeah,
1 year, 3 years, 4 years. There's much to be gleaned from the experiences of being an autonomous adult and stuff that you can apply to being a parent in hindsight or later in life that you go.
exactly. Although Mother Nature is a lot more kinder to men in that timeline
Yes.
than it is to women.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay, so this is what he sent me. How to be a parent in 2017. And I'm sure this has gone and, made the rounds, but and I've read something fairly like it before. But anyway, make sure your children's academic, emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual, physical, nutritional, and social needs are met while being careful not to overstimulate, understimulate, improperly medicate, helicopter, or neglect them in a screen-free, processed foods-free, GMO-free, negative energy-free, plastic-free, body-positive, socially conscious, egalitarian, but also authoritative, nurturing but fostering of independence, gentle but not overly permissive, pesticide-free, two-story, multilingual home, preferably in a cul-de-sac with a backyard and 1.5 siblings spaced at least 2 years apart for proper development. Also, don't forget the coconut oil.
Yeah,
How
sums
to
it
be
up.
a and then how to be a parent in literally every generation before ours. Feed them sometimes. And that is it. Feed them sometimes. Um, and I think my point here is that we are in the information age for sure. And I think sometimes too much information is not a good is unhealthy because we are so bombarded with information about parenting, about many things, but we're talking specifically about parenting. We are so bombarded with information, we forget to slow down and breathe into our own intuition and do what feels right. And what feels right is to create a space for that child to find their way, to find their own way, and always, always at age appropriate levels of allowing them to find their own way. Like, you're not going to leave the kid at home by themselves when they're 2 years old and say, you'll be fine, you'll know what to do. No, of course not. But you might do it at 15, and you know what? It's really hard to do. It's really hard to let go of your kids, but you do it, and you allow them to find their way. Let them get their own breakfast, whatever it is. Like, there's so many different levels of letting go and being able to. But I think the most important thing that I can glean from this is we don't think for ourselves anymore. We are so busy reading every article we can possibly find on this, how to eat properly and raise our children properly and behave properly and how to meditate properly and how to be spiritual and how to reach our spirit guides and how to put a balanced meal on the table and how to detox and not detox and coconut oil and not coconut oil. And it's, to me, when I look at it, it's like the ego run amok with all these, go this way, go this way, go this way, go this way. And you're always being led down blind alleys. And that's very much ego centered behavior. An ego-centered mindset is that go here, go there. This will get you what you want. This will get you what you want. This will give you kids who are, well balanced and or raise them up to be good people. No, but this will. No, but this will. And I think we just have to come back to ourselves, just like everything else, and just breathe into the experience and be more responsive from that intuitive place inside us that already knows what the right thing to do is in any given situation. And I think that takes a lot of letting go of self-doubt and worrying about what other people will think of you as a parent, because you parent in the way that you feel is the right way to parent, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, something I think that was really critical that you said there was to slow down and breathe into our intuition. And yeah, I mean, society seems to be ever, maybe it is an effect of social media, maybe it is just an effect of our generation, or my generation, or the one just above me, that seems to have such strong ideas on parenthood. Perhaps never more thought has gone into it. If that's, I don't know if that's fair to say, but I feel it is. Where you just had kids and they, you just were looking to make ends meet and get through it all, a couple of generations ago. Now it's like the central focus of a life. And not that they ever weren't important, but I feel like there's so much more put on when that, just like that that email, or that the thing that made the rounds that you started the show with, says, like, there's just so much, and society has so many expectations, and it's difficult to not only juggle all these balls at the same time, but then also feel comfortable in society when you aren't doing one of those things. Like, you feel like when you go to the grocery store and you buy cookies or flavor blasted goldfish, you know that they're not good, but that's what your kid likes, and it calms them down, and you're constantly balancing and trading, but you feel shame, and you hope the cashier's not, you worry about the cashier judging you or running into a friend and they see what's inside your grocery cart. Like, it's just a bunch of unnecessary stress that has come on because we're trying to raise kids in an ever more public way. And it's a real challenge, and I definitely, as somebody who doesn't have kids and who hasn't wanted them, and up till now I still don't, I definitely resonate with Stephen's sentiment about not having them. It seems to be a lot of a lot of trouble to not only the actual challenges, the physical challenges, the upsets that happen in a household when you're raising kids, but also the games you play inside your head as you try to fit in and not stick out too far in society. Um, it really it's a really difficult thing to balance, and I think a lot of people are struggling with it. And when you talk, part of that thing was to have them properly medicated. It's maybe no wonder, it's one of the contributing factors to why our society is so heavily medicated.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the thing is, when I look back, my kids are 32 and 33 and 28. And when I look back at my career as a mother and the role I played and the mistakes I made, if I were to do it again, the one thing that I wish I had then that I didn't and I have now is to be more mindful and conscious and aware. That's it.
Hmm.
There's so much more information, and I see it all the time, and I think, oh my God, we didn't have that when my kids were small. But I don't wish for those things. I wish that I had been more aware and mindful and had spent more time in my loving presence with my kids. I think I did, but there was a lot of time when I didn't, and I just wish I had been more of that. That's really all. I don't wish that I had that particular type of baby carrier or even that information about, nutrition or whatever it is. No, it's that awareness and that mindfulness and that ability to recognize my loving presence and go there, especially when they were putting out a call for love. That's all I really
Yeah.
wish I had when I was a young mother. And there were a lot of times where I didn't. And the rest of it, when you do that, I think the rest of it really just falls into place, and it's all good. It's all good.
So if you could, as you sit from where you are now, having had that experience, and then be into the work that you're in now for the past 10 years or so, um, if you're able to go back to yourself, at an age where you had two young kids and life was really harried, and I know that you had significant issue in your first marriage, and you could go back there and she doesn't know who you are. What how would you help? How would you help to somebody who's feeling overwhelmed and like, oh my goodness, this is taking more than I can even give?
I think I would probably be that safe space for her. I would give her the space to feel overwhelmed, to feel unloved, to feel all those things that she needed to feel, and that she didn't feel, and that came out in the way she behaved a lot of times. So I think it would be more that letting her know that someone was there that cared and loved and supported her. I think that would be the thing that I would want. A reflection of the loving presence, basically, right? I think that's what I would have wanted.
It'd be
Interestingly.
it's so nice, and I think that's partly what this work is all about, is getting yourself to a place where you can create great relationships. And just what you said about going back and helping a struggling parent, but helping a struggling anyone. um, I just had a Facebook friend lost his granddaughter to a drug overdose a couple of days ago, and it's no different, really. It's just having the person who's struggling to have somebody in their life that they can trust completely, and that person being able to give them a loving space to allow them to feel overwhelmed, to allow them to express their feelings, to know that they're not going to be judged, and that you're just there as their caretaker in that moment as long as they need it. Um, and that can just do an incredible world of good. And I know in the times of my life where I've had that in a relationship, whether it be romantic or otherwise, or a real close friend, um, those are the moments where you kind of replenish yourself, and you look back and you realize how much you could let go of all the stuff that was building up inside you that was causing you to behave in ways that were really just exacerbating your problem.
Yeah, and I think, it's when we're feeling that, it's not the time we want someone to tell us how we can do it better, or
Yeah,
what we need to do to not feel this way anymore. We just need to know it's okay to feel this. It's okay to
yeah,
feel like totally pissed off with, the frustration of things not being the way you want them to, or to be totally sad about the loss of the dream that you thought your sort of family unit was going to be, which I think was one of the things that I struggled with, was that my
mm,
dream about how my life would be
no,
and what
it's
it
a tough
really
one.
was, um, were so far from being the same. Um,
Yeah,
you don't want someone to tell you, well, you need to do this and this and this. You just want someone to sort of be the receptacle for um, the expression of that frustration or whatever it is, the sadness, and just to sit with you in that frustration or sadness or disappointment or whatever it is. Um, I think that's just about the best thing anybody could ever do for anybody else, is to be in that space with them, and um, not give advice, not tell them what they've done wrong or what they could do better, but just allow the space for that expression um, to happen. And you know what, I think there's a lot of parents out there that probably could use that.
yeah,
Um, and not, a space where they don't feel judged or criticized, or like, someone will tell them, well, what you should do if you want to, if you want to be a better parent, this is what you should do. But just to sit there with them and let them express their frustration and, not knowing what to do in certain situations, or how to raise their kids. I mean, I remember when I had Stephen. We lived in London, and I, of course, went into the hospital. And back then, you stayed for 3 days or whatever it was, and then they said, "Okay, you're going home today." And all I could think of was, "Don't send me home alone with this kid. I don't know what to do." And there's this fear of, oh my God, like I'm totally responsible for this little being, and I haven't got the foggiest idea what to do. How do I know when he's crying, what he's crying about, what he needs, what he doesn't need, when he's hungry, when he's not hungry? I don't know. um, I survived, um, but it's those moments, when you are totally feel hopeless and you think, I've done it all wrong. I mean, I still have days when I think, oh God, I should have done it. I wish I'd done a better job. Not that my kids aren't really great kids, but everybody has things, and you can always find something that you could have done better. Um, but it's not about doing it perfect. It's about being comfortable with what you're doing, and that having that natural flow of, for me, motherhood, that natural flow of motherhood that says, just breathe into it and you'll know, and you know what to do. And I've had many moments like that even in the last 10 years. But um, yeah, I wish more parents could really see that it's not about, the list of things you should or shouldn't do. It's about being yourself. It's about breathing into that loving presence and that consciousness, and being totally aware and mindful as a parent. of that inner voice that knows all the answers.
Yeah. Now you bring up a lot of things and a lot of important points. Um, what we can be for each other, what we can be for ourselves, because it's about self-care, but what we can really be for somebody else, as an opportunity, where you can let somebody release, that pent-up emotion with you, and in so creating a safe space for them, you remind them of their own intuition. You remind them of their own loving space. You can lead that interaction through your energy that you bring to it. And I think something that has contributed, a couple things that have contributed to, like, it's more of a competitive nature among parents about how you're doing it, because everything's so open, well, so much more open, and you can argue about the authenticity of it, but with social media, so much is more out there. But I think first and foremost, being in a relationship with somebody where you've made a child, you can help each other become better parents. Not so much about, I think we should do it this way, I think we should do it this way, and then you hash out some sort of compromise, but more so taking care of each other's emotional world, so that when they do administer whatever tack they're using, they're coming at it from a more loving place rather than an intellectual place of rules and some sort of system of routine or ways in which we want to do something. And so by doing that for each other in a romantic relationship with the person you've made a child with, or somebody maybe who you've joined as a child, creating those spaces for them and having that be reciprocated is a great way that you can become better parents without ever having to pick up a book about the technicalities of how you should be better feeding them, or what activities they should be in, or what bedtime is best, or if they should take naps and when they shouldn't, and when they should be left alone and when they should do these other things. You don't have to don't worry about that stuff. I mean, that stuff, you can go down that road, but something you can do right away that feels amazing and will help your relationship is be able to do that for each other. And I think with kind of an explosion of single parenthood too. I think if somebody finds themselves in that position, as somebody, I've kind of parachuted into some of those situations, in my life over the 20 years I've been dating. I've been in a few of those situations. And in single parenthood, I haven't found too many that are supportive like that. Most often when it's single parenthood and it's a split custody of some sort, of some arrangement, it is super competitive. It is, well, I'm going to let them do this because their dad doesn't, or because their mom doesn't. I have friends who take the kids on the weekends, and they're like, I'm just going to have fun with them like they're my buddies, because that's how I think that I'm going to get them to like me. And it's totally destructive when it comes to helping each other become better parents. Forget what it does to the kid. It's about, how do you become a better parent? And when you're on your own, it's very difficult, extremely difficult, because you have no counterweight, when you need it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you are together with somebody who you have a great relationship, that's awesome. If you're with somebody you don't have a great relationship with, that's hard. If you're not with somebody you don't have a great relationship with, or you're just not with somebody, it's difficult. And then in comes the whole social media thing, where men, I think, you talk about it a lot, and almost majority of women I talk about this, and I think it's something that affects women more than it affects men. Men compete, certainly, in lots of ways, but I don't think that we compete so much over social media with each other. It's more of a female phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
and women have this covert competition with each other on social media, and it is like posting pictures of a super happy kid playing with their toys and stuff like that, getting them in the 7th best minutes of the day, taking a 3-minute video and putting it on Facebook. Doesn't matter that the kid didn't woke up a couple times last night, they were crying before, they had a big temper tantrum, mom was feeling crazy, but we got 3 minutes of good video and we're going to post that today. And that sinks in to the women I know in my life, and that is certainly not creating a safe space for your sisters to feel safe, and be able to, like, say, I'm totally overwhelmed, because there's now been this extra pull to be like, you can't show that. You can talk about lots of things, but don't talk about how you're struggling as a mother. It's always roses, always roses.
Yeah. Well, and
And
that, sorry, go ahead.
that's I was going to finish by saying, like, it's destructive. It's destructive, and it's hurting. I think it's one of the major things that's hurting women in today's society.
Yeah, I think it's social media it's not real in the sense that it's that old, you know, you're comparing your pathetic life with someone else's highlight reel. And we have that opportunity to only present what we want the world to see, but that's so not, we want to be authentic, but we are only want to be authentic, the best parts of our authenticity. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we don't show the messy authenticity. We only show the pretty authenticity, and I think that's very damaging to people. And you're right; it's more in the case of women than it is in men, because men just go about their business; they don't care. It's that old, that old cartoon where the woman looks in the mirror and she sees somebody that's ugly and fat and whatever. And the guy looks in the mirror and he sees like Mr. Muscle Man, all, it's,
Yeah.
that's really, it may be sexist, but I think it's not far off from the truth. And
Yeah.
so posting your highlight reel for all the world to see and hiding your messiness is not very authentic. And it does not promote supportiveness and sharing um, and that safe space where others feel, like you said, comfortable enough to share their struggles. We really have to show our vulnerable moments. And, I just, it's just one of those reasons why I preface a lot of things by saying, okay, like I'm telling you this, but I can't tell you that I'm successful at it 100% of the time, because I'm not. I fail at it all the time. I know it works, but I don't always remember to do it. And there is a lot of failure on my part when it comes to remembering my loving presence in times of struggle. Um, I I've done it this week. It's just a part of life. Um, but people don't want someone, on their little soapbox or pedestal saying, well, this is the way you do it. And look, see, I've accomplished it, because it seems too far off for them to, if they're sitting there in the muck and mire of their life, that just seems so far away from, uh, from anything they could have ever imagined being or having in their life. And I think it's vulnerability that connects us, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I find it really interesting that one of the first things that you said about what was a real challenge for you when you were a mother was that your life, like the dream that you had of what your motherhood would look like, wasn't matching it at 5 o'clock when you're exhausted and your kids are crying, um, and how your life looks. And that was, that's one of the things that you brought up in a time before the internet. And to have that be one of the most important things that you bring up in this show in the first 20 minutes of talking about it, well, to have that was difficult enough, and now you have it multiplied by so much because of social media, because of all the things that you see. And like, your life certainly doesn't look up to the dreams or the wonderful lives of all these people that you can just click and scroll through. And we forget, and we know it's not perfect, their lives, of course not, of course not. And then we kind of feel resentment. We kind of like, oh, like F you, like,
Yeah.
you think that your life is so amazing and your kids just like the best. I mean, how many times I've been on the receiving end, or I've been a part of conversations where that's essentially been the line. Can you
Yeah.
believe, like, does she really think that we all think, oh, it's so amazing, like, I know this about her, I know this dirt and stuff. And yeah, it's not nice, and it makes it even more difficult when you see other people's dreams, or when you have 4 minutes of it matching your dream. That's what they post. um, it's already something that's very raw, and then it just gets multiplied in the way that sometimes social media is used.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, social media. Social media is such a blessing and a
Double-edged sword.
curse. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
blessing and a curse, and I think unfortunately we see the curse of it a lot, a lot. I mean, that anonymity of that sort of, you can hide behind the screen and be the bully. You can say things about people, whether you know them or not, public figures or not public figures. You can make comments about them and get away with it. You can, let people know only the parts of your life that you want them to know and hide the rest. There's just so much. There's so much about social media that could be so amazing, but it's not the way it's being used. Like
Yeah.
I love my little Course of Miracles Facebook group, and I'm still going every day and reading the text and doing the lesson and sharing it with whoever is interested in reading or listening to it and watching it. And to me, that's like such a beautiful little way to use social media to connect with people on that level of, you know, we're reading this book and we're really trying to find our way back to loving presence, but we're doing it through the messiness of our lives, and we're not afraid to share that. And at least I'm not. And I think it's such a beautiful way to create community. But then there's the dark side of it that doesn't create community in that same way. And unfortunately, that is the duality of human existence. If there's the dark and the light, and you choose, what do you want? What would you prefer? Do you want to live in the light, or do you want to stay in the dark? And
Yeah.
that's life,
Yeah. We really do create our worlds.
Yeah, it's just so overexposed, I think, too.
Yeah.
It's almost too much information.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and that's why you have to be diligent about what you let in.
yeah,
It can be tough in those moments where you're feeling down and you're feeling blue, and you go to Facebook you go to your Facebook news feed to to have that distraction. Because we use that just like we use food or we use alcohol, we use drugs. We use the Facebook feed. I
yeah.
watch it. I watch it at the restaurant when people are spending $100 on dinner and they're on their Facebook feed. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't like this discomfort of us not talking. And we're spending money on a romantic date, but we're not having a romantic time. So I'm just going to scroll. And
Really, like,
it's amazing. I laugh every time, especially being somebody who does this show and has the ideas that I have. Yeah, it is amazing. And sometimes I think there was just a moment, just as an aside, there was a moment like a couple nights ago in the main section of the restaurant. There was like 6 tables filled at like 9 o'clock, and all 6 tables had their phones out. And not everybody, but at least one person on each table had their phone out. And I wanted to take a picture of it, but then realized the irony. Me pulling up my phone to take a picture of something. And
put it on
but yeah,
social media.
but
Yeah.
going back to the point, we use that Facebook scrolling to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
We use it as like it's like sucking our thumb.
Yeah.
And then when we don't feel good, and we're seeing the contrast in people's lives, especially if that's what makes up most of your newsfeed, that gets us in a real low place, and we don't realize that we're burying ourselves.
Yeah, it's that old, I'm doing this to fill myself up, but the result is that I'm feeling worse.
Right.
Right? It's we criticize other people to feel better ourselves, but then we feel worse because, like, oh, why am I doing that? Like, that's horrible. It's that whole, we eat to fill ourselves up emotionally, and then we are upset because it makes us gain weight and we feel worse about ourselves. So it's really not having the effect that we think it is. And that's why going back to the whole parenting thing is just put all the articles down, turn off the internet, and just be with your kids in that very connected place, connected in yourself and then connected with them. And that in itself is pretty much one of the only things you need as a parent, is to be
Yeah.
connected to who you are and then connect with your
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So,
And to create a real connected community. And I know that we're past our time, but I just wanted to share just quickly. There was a time when I was really looking spiritually. I grew up in the church, and I left for a bit, and I went back to it. And there was something in the Church of Latter-day Saints, which I was a member of for a few years in my late teens and early 20s. And they had this thing called Family Home Evening. And though I left the church, and I don't ascribe to any, and I think I went to go see what they had there in those things because I was looking for something before I came to my own ideas. Um, and they had this beautiful thing. It was Monday nights, and it was kids and the grandparents and people, whether it be just in your own family or you brought other families in. It was called Family Home Evening, and it was Monday nights, and you came together and you shared a meal and you played games. If the family was artistic, you sing songs. You set up a couple of easels and you do drawings. And there's an 8-year-old and there's a 71-year-old, and you're all doing the same thing. And it was even at that time. I mean, at the time, I think this is the best. I mean, that was really the glue that kept me there. Was because it was undeniably beautiful. It was undeniably connective. There was no cell phones out. You weren't allowed, even though back then, I mean, if we're talking like 13 years ago, it really wasn't all that prevalent like the way it is now. But there was, none of that. It was just 4 hours where we're going to do the same activity as a group. And it wasn't too long, and it wasn't too short, and it was perfect. And of course, they would have some Bible readings in there, and you to take what you like. Um,
mhm.
you know, but that connective experience, and to think about how many times, even now, like when you go to family functions, whether it be for Easter or for somebody's birthday or whatever, how often do you have all 8 people in the room doing the same activity? And it's like never. You can go
Yeah.
years. You can go literally, in today's society, you could go literally years without all 8 people doing the same thing, or let alone 4 people doing the same thing. I mean, how often is that really happening in our lives? And it's
Mhm.
wonderful where you actually have the attention on everybody. You have the attention of everybody, and you're giving your attention to everybody and nowhere else. And I think it's a really beautiful way. You can start there with your partner, with your kids, with your family, and with your community. And it's something that I endeavor to create in my life now and forever. I think it's really really wonderful, and it will fill you up in a way that little can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like it.
Hmm. Well, I know that we intend to have an experience like that tomorrow.
Yes, we do.
Yes, yes. How do you feel about finishing us off with the meditation, Bettina?
Oh, I always feel good about that. So
Good.
let's do it. Let's close our eyes and take a deep breath and breathe in to the experience that we call life. Let all that breath move down into your body, out to every cell of your being. As you breathe fully into life, you connect to that quiet space inside that is your loving presence, that space from which all your best experiences are felt, where all the answers are there for you. Whether you're a parent or not a parent, in some ways, we're always parenting, whether it is children or nieces and nephews or animals or whatever it is. And that loving presence is the place in which our most intimate connections are made, our most loving choices are made, and the richness of life is experienced at its fullest. This is the place from which we can choose to experience life, experience parenthood, experience relationship, experience ourselves. We have that choice each day, every moment. And even if we don't make that choice, we can be gentle with ourselves, loving, and forgiving of ourselves and any mistakes that we have made in the past or think are making now or that we make in the future. And in that place, it truly is unconditional love for ourselves and for those around us. And when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes and bring yourself back to the world.
Thank you, Bettina.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for watching this week. And I want to say a special thank you to Ashley. I know you'll be watching somewhere from Italy or the Mediterranean, depending on whatever hour it is.
Hi, Ashley.
I love you and I miss you. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now. Have a great week, everyone.